Hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to let my heartbeat slow the fuck down for a second. I guess I could always pre-record these. So I wanted to jump on and talk about the targeting of the Christ Sophia bloodlines and targeting of original founder consciousness that many different groups on this planet hold the templating and the coding for. And the reason I feel called to talk about this is because I started to work with a group of women who are all basically clearing this exact thing. And many of them do not know that this is what they're clearing. These are not necessarily people who come from like this community. They're coming in from somewhere else, and so they don't necessarily have the languaging to describe this stuff. They don't necessarily understand the energetic and spiritual components of these things, and it's pretty wild because I've been mapping out the structure of it, and while I probably don't have all the pieces, I do have some pieces, and so I want to share those pieces with you today. So here's what I've been able to map out so far. When there is targeting on, and this is, I'm going to say this is probably a video specifically for women. There's a whole other way to look at this when we're talking about the male perspective. But what happens is when I start to look into the fields of women who have gone through this, what I see is incredible damage in the matrilineal DNA. I see like all this like mangled, like miasmatic stuff, like all the way through the mother's line. And I see this false king of tyranny overlay, or this kind of like Draco reptilian brain, interface that's basically come through the males in the family line and started to target and like assault the feminine within the line. And this is coming from within the males that are doing this. This is coming from partly from the mother wound. This is one of the huge components for them. And so there is actually a hatred within them of the feminine and the hatred of their own internal female essence, because they were turned against that with the gender splitting programming and the stuff that happens with mom and son. And so they take that into the relationship, and there is this underlying like hatred of the divine feminine. And so it goes in and it starts to assault that consciousness, not recognizing that by doing that it's literally destroying itself. But the wound, when these women are clearing this level of it's an attack on their Christ Sophia essence. It's an attack on their divine union template. But I want to say that I really believe that we opt into that experience so that we can resurrect ourselves out of that. So it's not about being a victim to these attacks, even though when you really zoom far enough out and you look at it, you're like, oh my God, this is actually really deep. And we do have to understand the energetic dynamics that are at play here, and that the males within the lineage that are holding this false king of tyranny overlay, it's literally like negative antichrist forces and impulses that are coming through the wounding and then assaulting the Sophia, or assaulting the feminine. And the other main thing that I notice within this is that there is always at some point a linchpin within the male lineage where we see a connection to the satanic ritual abuse grids. So any form of pedophilia, any form of, molestation and things, that's all connected to the satanic grids. And so even if those people are not like practicing Satanists, they're feeding the Moloch tanks, they're feeding the reversal grids, and they're literally feeding the innocence and the life force into that system, into that fallen grid. And so what it does is it cords not only the immediate people that they're impacting, that they're like molesting or impacting or abusing, but it filters all the way through the family line. And what we start to see is these almost like these satanic seals or these curses that start to come up in the form of physical illness and genetic mutation, because the genetics that they are operating out of, the consciousness, is literally a digressed and fallen consciousness. And so in order to like operate within that harvest, they have to basically sell some form of the line's health. They sell some form of the line's, you know, it's like the firstborn or whatever. So you see these weird kind of genetic mutations, and you see like chronic pain or just diseases, and like I said, mutations within the DNA, which can create any type of different disease or disorder. And again, those can be things that we opt into as an experience so that we can decode it in our own way. And not everybody's going to be able to understand it this way. I feel like if you need this piece of the puzzle and this language to understand it, then you'll get this language. And if there's another way that you're supposed to transmute this and understand this, then that's what, you know, that's how you'll do it, because that's what's going to make sense to you. But yeah, it's very interesting because you see the same setup within religion. And so it's this weird, right? Because that the organized religion is coming from having been braided with that Luciferian, that Antichrist, you know, these beings that stole these manuals and then wove themselves into it, that all those grids are connected. So a lot of times there's also like religious abuse of power. You see weird like implantations and reversals within the light body because of the male that's coming. Like it's so all interconnected. And I see all these different pieces. I see the religious piece. I see the implants, the crucifixion implant, the reversals. I see the damage that's been done to the matrilineal DNA. I see the severing that has tried to happen from this false male template that's tried to cut off the feminine, which is also in line with these, you know, kind of fallen religions that are not necessarily hosting the full spectrum of Christ and what that's really about. And so it's like, it's a literal form of mind control. And what it does is it targets the self-worth, because, you know, two different things happen when the feminine in the line has been so shaved off. It's like all these pieces get shaved off. The feminine gets so contorted and so stuffed into a box that it's not able to actually protect the innocence, that first line, the mother to the child. And so the mother becomes unable to care for the children in the way that they need to, because the emotional body is so closed down and so damaged. And then you see this predatorial masculine energy that's there, which is then also targeting the child. And so there's a feeling of associating this predatorial nature with the masculine energy, as if that's the, you know, that's the thing we're clearing so we can get in touch with the true father. But you can see how this layer kind of plays out, where the child gets completely alienated from the mother and the father because of all the fucking shit that hasn't been cleared within the parental line that then just gets passed down. And so there's a whole other masculine side of this, which maybe I will do a whole separate video on that. This isn't super long and this isn't super in depth, but yeah, I just wanted to share that. And I think for me, the most important things in all of this to remember is that the true father and the true mother, the essence of that, which we truly are, that we're resurrecting, would never allow that to happen. So that energy, once resurrected and rehabilitated within the form, right, like in a human, that would never allow harm to come to that innocence. And so even though we're not able to necessarily go back in time, even though we kind of can, what we're doing is we're coming in now as that mother and father essence, and we're saying, that happened then, and I was a child, and I was unable to protect myself, and the male and the females around me, or the beings that were supposed to be taking care of me, were not able to do that for me. But I can actually access that energy now, and I can resurrect what that is, so that I don't allow that to happen anymore. And I just want to say that if you're somebody who has either been abusive in relationships or been abused in relationships, gone through mind control, or gone through just really, really difficult things, that just please don't blame yourself for maybe how long you stayed in that dynamic for, the red flags that you ignored, because that was your initiation. And if you had had the tools and the skills that you needed at the time to get out, you would have. You couldn't, because it literally is working upon, these relationships are working upon the wounded attachment system, which can become an addiction. So we really have to be able to give ourselves compassion and grace and say, oh my gosh, if I would have gotten out, I could have. The only way that I can process this now is by peeling off that layer of shame and saying, well, now I know what I know, and I'm learning to trust myself, and I'm learning how to get in touch with these energies so that this never happens again. So we can really break the cycle of this, so we can become a safe person in the world that stops perpetuating, allowing ourselves to be treated that way, or stops perpetuating treating other people that way. And that's really Christ, right? That's the golden rule of treat other people the way that you want to be treated. So, but that's a hard thing to do, right? When a lot of people are very traumatized. But we're responsible for that. We have to be accountable for our own behavior and actions and feelings and all of those things. So maybe I'll just end this with a little bit of a clearing and a heart-centered practice, just to stabilize, specifically with the intention of stabilizing the feminine grids and clearing, because when you resurrect the feminine, the true feminine, that meets and supports the divine masculine. And so any work that we do around this is supporting both energies. It's supporting our brothers, it's supporting our sisters. And when we clear the false king of tyranny, what we do is we allow the men on this planet who are doing everything that they can to not hold that template. We actually can see them instead of having an overlay on top of them as if they are this predator. And we can start to come into right relationship with that, because they're also, dealing with, there's so many men that are being pushed away, or so many men that are dealing with the fallout from the women who have been so hurt and traumatized, and then they come in and they don't trust the man who actually is worth trusting. So this affects them as well and makes them feel shut out and not wanted and not needed. And so when we resurrect either side of these, we help the whole planet and everything in between. So let's just do a little energetic clearing for the mother, for the father, and really for the resurrection of these original founder consciousness bloodlines that are holding the records, that are holding. What I see is that when that flame is ignited, once that self-worth, that self-esteem gets reignited, it's like a flame that causes the entire body to expand, to take up space. And in that, there is a resurrection of the protection of the innocence. And so with our intention today, with our attention, we are going to collectively command the return of all energy to all the women on this planet who are ready to receive their own energy back into their body that may have fractured off as a byproduct of wounding from mother, from father, from caregivers, from interacting with predatorial consciousness. And to see the ways in which that contorted and and smashed and tried to damage your own innocence, and to pull that innocence back, to pull all that energy back out of those grids through a purified aquamarine veil of water, perfectly structured, calling that energy back to yourself, breathing it in, breathing it into your heart, feeling your heart surrounded by the mother, by this aquamarine chalice of overflowing energy and nurturance, and feeling the protection and provision and structure of the father containing the mother, the true father, inviting in the true essence of Christ, the true essence of the mother, the father, and the child, to recode our DNA, to recode our blood, to recode our entire being into remembering how sacred, how innocent, how vulnerable, how worthy, how unique we are, and to reactivate our original energy signature and blueprint, to reactivate our hearts, to reactivate that fire within our solar plexus, to return all energy to all systems. At this exact moment in time, we command it. We remember what love is. We know what something pretending to be love is. We are protected. We are the shepherds now of our own innocence, our own life force. And we're going to close down and close out and collapse down and clear out any miasma, any dark energy, anything that might be trying to come in and harvest from the womb, to clear that out of the womb, to replace the womb with this crystalline structure that is housing life, that is a life giver and a life bringer, and removing any and all cords and any and all implants that are seeking to invert, steal, or siphon that sexual energy, to clip those cords from all of our sisters, to return that energy to them, their energy to be sealed up within their field. Returning all of the energy for the men, the sexual energy that's being harvested, the way that their attention is being pulled by these Jezebels, by these dark Liliths, giving the feminine energy, giving that wild essence a bad name, recoding the true wild feminine, and returning all sexual energy, all to the sacral, to the root, to the men that is rightfully theirs. Please claim that energy back and put that energy into building structures of life and supporting the innocence, and collapsing and closing out any and all timelines that are ready to be sealed and closed off and sent back to source, that are trying to split the genders, that are trying to divide union, that are trying to divide communities and families. We close those timelines down and we resurrect the timelines, that one single golden thread of life. We live that, we breathe that, we are that, we walk that path, we listen to what God is telling us to let go of, and we allow ourselves to be updated. And with love and grace for who and what we are and for where we are, we seal this up, we close it down, we take the jewels, we restore the gems, and we find ourselves back in the center as the alchemist that we are. Bring your energy back into your core. Feel your body. Feel that electromagnetic pulse that you are. Feel that, that coherent heart field. And we're breaking out of any and all boxes that tell us who we are, what this looks like, what the spiritual journey needs to be like. We're letting go of all the shoulds. We're letting go of all of the, what is that word? Where you're just kind of relive, you're just ruminating. We're letting go of rumination. We're letting go of loops. We're getting out of the loops. We're seeing that the loops do not serve us. And we're finding ourselves in real time, in this moment, with agency, with free will, with clarity. We're untangling the mental webs. We're untangling the boxes. We're expanding our light body. We're expanding ourselves into that toroidal field. You don't have to do or be anything that anybody tells you. The most important thing is that you are yourself. And that you figure out what that means to you. And every day you get really curious about who you are and you honor that. In all of its shades and varieties and textures. Beautiful. Well, I'm gonna go. I hope this was helpful, and share this video if it was. I see so many people that I love. I love you guys. Okay. Bye-bye.